I have a habit. When I sleep, I practically have to mount my giant body pillow plushie, wrapping my legs tightly around it to fall asleep. But one night, out of nowhere, I heard the inner thoughts of the hottest guy I've been crushing on. God, her thighs are strangling me. I can't breathe. She's doing it again. I froze mid-squeeze, my heart slamming against my ribs. The voice was deep, velvet, rough, and unmistakably belonged to Damian Blackwood. Damian Blackwood was the 32-year-old CEO of Blackwood Tech, the most ruthless and untouchable man in San Francisco. He'd made his first billion before 30 and had eyes the color of winter steel. I was just a junior UX designer who'd been at the company for 8 months. I'd spoken to him exactly once during my onboarding presentation, and I'd stuttered so badly I wanted to dissolve into the carpet. Now, his voice was inside my skull while I was in bed wearing an oversized sleep shirt and wrapped around a giant plush dragon named Pickles. I stared down at the stuffed dragon. It was 5 feet long, emerald green with soft felt scales and tiny wings. It had arrived 3 days ago, a ridiculous impulse buy from an online boutique that sold comfort items for adults with anxiety. I named it Pickles because its expression looked slightly confused. I loved it. I also apparently shared some kind of psychic bond with my billionaire boss through it. No, I whispered to myself. I'm hallucinating. I've been working too hard. I haven't slept properly in weeks. My crush has finally cracked my brain. I'm not hallucinating, Damian's inner voice growled inside my head. And she's still squeezing. Dear God, her legs are so warm. I nearly screamed. I shoved the dragon away from my body and scrambled backward until my spine hit the headboard. The dragon flopped onto its side, one glass eye staring at me with eternal bewilderment. Immediately, my phone lit up on the nightstand. Damian Blackwood was video calling me on the company's internal communication app at 1 in the morning. I had his contact because of a cross-departmental project 6 months ago, but I never once used it. My thumb hovered over the screen. This was insane. I answered. Damian's face filled the screen, and my breath caught in my throat. He was stupidly beautiful. Sharp jawline, dark hair, slightly damp as if he'd just showered, a mouth that usually pressed into a thin line of disapproval.
But right now, his cheeks were flushed and his pupils were blain wide. He looked wrecked. Aria, his real voice was tight, strained. It's late. Are you all right? I'm fine, I said, my voice too high. Just couldn't sleep. His jaw clenched. I saw it. I saw muscle jump beneath his skin. Then his inner voice crashed into my head again, completely separate from the controlled words leaving his mouth. She's lying. She was strangling me with those gorgeous legs 2 seconds ago, and now she's sitting there looking innocent. God, she's beautiful when she's flustered. My grip on the phone tightened until my knuckles went white. I'm sorry about the hour, he said aloud, his tone regaining its usual frost. I had a sudden migraine and saw you were online. Thought maybe there was a work emergency? No work emergency, I managed. Just couldn't sleep. Bad dreams? Bad dreams, his inner voice echoed. If she only knew the dreams I have about her. His expression didn't change. The man was an Oscar-worthy actor. I'll let you go then, he said stiffly. Wait, I blurted out before I could stop myself. Are you okay? You look a little flushed. His eyes widened just a fraction. Fine, he bit out. Air conditioning is broken. Then his inner voice. I'm not fine. I'm burning alive because she was just wrapped around me and now she's not and I want her to touch me again. I stared at him. This was real. This was actually real. Damian Blackwood, the man who wants me to senior VP cry in a board meeting, was mentally begging me to cuddle a stuffed dragon. Okay, I said softly. Good night, Mr. Blackwood.
Damian, he corrected, his voice rough. Call me Damian.
Good night, Damian.
A shudder went through him, visible even through the screen. She said my name, his mind whispered reverently. I'm gonna replay that for the next 10 years. He ended the call. I sat in the dark, staring at the dragon. Pickles stared back. I reached out slowly and ran one finger down its snout. A split second later, a sharp intake of breath echoed in my head. What is she doing? Is she petting it? She's petting it! That's my nose. I can feel her finger on my nose. I don't care if this is some kind of curse. I never want it to end. I smiled. A slow, wicked smile.
I scooped the dragon back into my arms and wrapped my legs around it again, pulling it tight against my chest. I heard Damian's inner voice let out a strangled groan. Best migraine of my life. I fell asleep that night listening to the steady rhythm of his breathing and the occasional soft whimper every time I shifted my hips. The next morning, I woke up to my roommate Tessa shaking my shoulder. Aria, get up. We're gonna miss the fresh croissants in the office cafeteria, and you know the almond ones run out by 8:30. Tessa was a product manager at Blackwood Tech and the only person who knew about my pathetic crush on our CEO. I dragged myself out of bed and got dressed, my mind still reeling from the night before. I grabbed Pickles and hesitated. I couldn't bring a giant dragon to work, but I could bring the mini version. Tessa had given me a tiny keychain version of Pickles as a joke last week. I clipped it onto the zipper of my laptop bag and headed out. The Blackwood Tech campus was all glass and steel and filtered sunlight. The cafeteria was on the 3rd floor with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the bay. Tessa and I grabbed our croissants and settled at a table near the espresso machines. I was halfway through my almond croissant when I heard it. She's here. She's eating a croissant. She looks so happy. I want to sit with her so badly, it's physically painful. I looked up, and there he was. Damian Blackwood, in a perfectly tailored navy suit, his dark hair combed back, his expression as cold and unreadable as a glacier. He was standing near the entrance with his CFO, Marcus Chen. To anyone else, he looked like he was surveying his kingdom. To me, he sounded like a lovesick puppy. Marcus is talking about quarterly earnings, and all I can think about is the way she held me last night. I want to walk over there.
I want to ask her if she slept well. I want to sit next to her and feed her pieces of my scone. I am losing my mind. Damian's eyes met mine across the cafeteria. He gave me a single curt nod. The CEO nod. The I acknowledge your existence, but barely nod. His inner voice screamed. She looked at me! She looked at me! Mission accomplished! I bit my lip to keep from laughing. Tessa was watching me with narrowed eyes. Why are you smiling at your croissant like it told you a secret? No reason, I said. Just really good almond paste. A shadow fell over our table. Marcus Chen was standing there, with Damian slightly behind him. Morning, ladies. Mind if we join you? Tessa kicked me under the table. Of course not, she said. Sit, sit. Damian sat down directly across from me. He placed his tray on the table with mechanical precision. His inner voice was a chaotic mess. Don't stare at her. Don't stare at her. You're staring. Look at the scone. Look at the scone. God, her hair is in a ponytail today. I love her ponytail. I want to wrap it around my hand and... Damian, I said sweetly, are you feeling better? You migraine from last night? Marcus looked up sharply. You had a migraine last night? Damian's fork paused halfway to his mouth. It was minor, he said. Gone now. It was not minor, his inner voice corrected. It was the most exquisite torture I have ever experienced, and I would pay any amount of money to go through it again. Marcus shrugged and bit into his bagel. You've been off all week, man. The late-night gym sessions, the ice baths. I told you that kind of biohacking is going to burn you out. Ice baths? I echoed innocently. Damian's ears turned slightly pink. Marcus laughed. Yeah, he's been taking 3 cold plunges a night. Says it helps with focus. Personally, I think he's just wound too tight. If you ask me, he needs a girlfriend. Tessa choked on her latte. Damian shot Marcus a look that could have flash frozen the entire bay. Marcus, I'm putting you on the Pacific Time Zone project. Enjoy those 4 a.m. meetings. Marcus looked horrified. Wait, no, I was kidding. Cold plunges, I thought. 3 a night? I knew exactly why he needed them. Every night I wrapped my legs around Pickles, and Damian Blackwood had to climb into a tub of ice water to keep his composure. I felt a surge of pure feminine power. I reached down and casually stroked the tiny Pickles keychain on my bag. Across the table, Damian's entire body stiffened. His knuckles went white around his fork. She's touching the little one. She's touching it. I can feel her finger on my chest. Right there. Don't react. Don't react. I'm reacting. Abort. He dropped his fork. It clattered against his plate. Everyone looked at him. Slipped, he muttered. His inner voice was whimpering. This woman is going to kill me, and I'm going to thank her for it. For the next week, this became our secret rhythm. During the day, we were nothing more than CEO and junior designer, exchanging polite nods in the hallway. But every night, I climbed into bed with Pickles and listened to Damian's unfiltered thoughts. He was funny. He was desperate. He was so utterly gone for me that it made my chest ache. I learned that he'd first noticed me during my portfolio review when I'd argued with a senior designer about accessibility standards. I learned that he'd personally approved my hire, even though I was underqualified on paper. I learned that he'd been finding excuses to walk past my desk for 8 months. I also learned other things that made my face burn in the darkness of my bedroom. The way his thoughts would dissolve into wordless static whenever I shifted my legs. The way he'd choke on his own breath when I pressed my chest against Pickles' back. The way he'd whisper my name inside his head like a prayer. I'm in so much trouble, he thought one night as I drifted off. I'm completely gone for this woman, and she has no idea. Little did he know. The trouble started on a Thursday. I was in the cafeteria grabbing lunch when a woman I'd never seen before slid into the seat across from me. She was tall and blonde and wore a cream-colored blouse that probably cost more than my monthly rent. Her smile was perfectly painted and completely fake. You must be Aria. I'm Victoria Sterling. I blinked. Sterling? As in Sterling Industries? The old money family that had been in the news for a rumored merger with Blackwood Tech? The same, she said, her smile widening. I'm Damian's fiancée. The word hit me like a slap. I kept my face neutral. I wasn't aware Damian was engaged. He is. Victoria examined her manicure. It's been arranged since we were children. Our families have been allies for 3 generations. The merger between our companies is just a formality. He's probably mentioned it. Damian's inner voice was silent during the day when we weren't physically close, but I remembered every word he'd whispered to himself at night. There was no way he was engaged to this woman. There was no way he wanted her. I see, I said flatly. Well, congratulations. Victoria's smile sharpened. I just wanted to introduce myself, since you seem to be spending so much time around my future husband.
The cafeteria lunches, the morning coffees, it's cute, really. He's always had a soft spot for strays. I stood up. My chair scraped against the floor. Thank you for the chat, Victoria. I have a meeting. As I walked away, I heard her laugh softly behind me. That night, I lay in bed with Pickles and felt a cold, hard knot in my chest. I knew Victoria was lying about the engagement. Damian had never mentioned her once, not even in the privacy of his own thoughts. But the fact remained, she was from his world. Old money, family alliances, generational wealth. I was a designer from a middle-class family in Sacramento who'd gotten her job because she'd argued about button contrast ratios. At 8 o'clock, Damian's inner voice flickered on. Dinner with the Sterlings tonight. God, I hate these things. Victoria's father wants to discuss the acquisition again. I told him I'm not interested in a merger of equals. I want a clean purchase or nothing. And Victoria keeps touching my arm. I'm gonna need another ice bath. I sat up straighter. He was at a dinner with Victoria, right now, and she was touching him. Something dark and possessive uncurled in my chest. I looked at Pickles. Pickles looked back at me. You know what? I said aloud. Let's make this dinner interesting. I climbed onto the bed and straddled the dragon's waist. I settled my weight down firmly, right over its softest middle section. I wore thin cotton shorts, and I made sure every inch of contact was deliberate. A strangled gasp echoed in my head. Holy... What? Aria, what are you doing? I'm at dinner. I'm at dinner with 12 people. I'm sitting next to Victoria's father. He's asking me about supply chain logistics. And she's sitting on me? I leaned forward, pressing my chest against the dragon's back. I reached down and dragged my nails slowly up the side of its neck. The felt was soft and yielding. I'm gonna snap this table in half. Damian's inner voice was ragged. Victoria just asked me if I'm feeling well. I told her the steak is undercooked.
The steak is fine. The steak is perfect. I am not perfect. I am in hell and heaven, both at once. I wasn't done. I reached over to my nightstand and grabbed my jade roller, the one I kept in the freezer for puffy morning eyes.
It was ice cold. I pressed it against the back of Pickles' neck and rolled it slowly down toward its spine. A choked sound burst through the mental link. Not a word, just pure physical distress. Then, I just dropped my wine glass. It shattered everywhere, red wine all over the white tablecloth. Victoria's mother screamed. Her father is staring at me. Everyone is staring at me. I need to get out of here. I heard his real voice through the link, muffled as if he'd clamped a hand over his own mouth. Excuse me, emergency business matter. My apologies. His inner voice was frantic. I'm leaving. I'm driving to her apartment. I don't know how she's doing this. I don't know if she knows. But I need to see her. I need to touch her. The link went silent. I sat up, my heart hammering. He was coming here. 20 minutes later, a knock rattled my apartment door. I opened it. Damian stood in the hallway, looking like a man who had clawed his way out of a hurricane. His suit jacket was missing. His tie was yanked loose. The top 2 buttons of his shirt were torn open, revealing the sharp lines of his collarbone. His hair was a disaster. His eyes were wild. Aria, he breathed. Damian? I said, my voice carefully calm. Shouldn't you be at dinner with Victoria? His expression flickered. Something dark and desperate passed through his eyes.
How do you know about Victoria? He demanded. She found me at lunch today, I said, crossing my arms. Told me all about your secret engagement, very romantic, arranged since childhood, 3rd-generation allies, all very fairy tale. Damian's face went pale, then flushed dark. There is no engagement, he said, his voice low and rough. There never was. Our grandfathers had a handshake agreement 40 years ago. I've told Victoria and her father a dozen times that I'm not honoring it. I only went tonight to formally dissolve the arrangement in writing. My lawyer was supposed to be there. His inner voice was screaming in my head. She thinks I'm engaged. She thinks I want Victoria. I have to fix this. I have to tell her the truth, all of it, even if she thinks I'm insane. I let the silence stretch. Then I stepped back and opened the door wider. Come in. He stepped inside, and I closed the door behind him. His eyes scanned my apartment and landed on the bed. On Pickles. The giant green dragon was sprawled in the center of my mattress, its glass eyes glinting under the lamplight. Damian stared at it. Then he stared at me. Then he stared at the tiny keychain version hanging from my laptop bag on the desk. I saw the realization hit him in real time. His inner voice went completely silent. Then, she knows. Oh God, she knows. She's known this whole time. Every night, every squeeze, every stroke. She knew. She knew, and she did it anyway. She's been playing with me for a week. I waited. He turned to face me. His expression was unreadable, but his inner voice was pure panic. Say something. Don't just stand there. You're the CEO of a Fortune 500 company. You can handle this. She's looking at you with those eyes. Those gorgeous, infuriating, knowing eyes. I reached over and picked up the mini Pickles keychain. I held it up between us and gave its tail a slow, deliberate tug. Damian's body jerked. His hand flew to his side, exactly where the tail would have connected to the dragon's body. A choked sound escaped his throat. His eyes widened. I'm sorry, I said, my voice soft and teasing. Did that hurt? He stared at me. The Ice Prince mask shattered completely. Aria, he said my name like a question and a plea. How long? Since the first night, I said, when I squeezed the dragon so hard you couldn't breathe, and then you video called me at 1 a.m? He closed his eyes. A shudder ran through him. Everything, he whispered. You heard everything. Everything I said in my head. Everything I felt. Every single embarrassing, desperately in love thought. Wait, I said, my heart stopping. In love? He opened his eyes. They were no longer the cold steel of a CEO. They were warm and terrified and utterly human. Yes, he said quietly. In love. I've been in love with you since you stood up in that portfolio review and told David Kim that his design excluded users with motor impairments. You were right. He was wrong.
You didn't care that he'd been here for 15 years. You didn't care that I was in the room. You just cared about doing the right thing. I've never seen anything so brave. He took a shaky breath. I didn't know how to talk to you. I'm not good at this. The cold act, the distance, it's not a choice. It's armor. My father taught me that vulnerability is a liability. But with you, I couldn't keep the armor on. And then this curse or whatever it is happened. And suddenly I could feel you holding me every night. And it was the best thing I'd ever felt. He looked down at his hands. I know it's creepy. I know I should have told you.
I'll leave if you want. I'll quit the company. I'll throw the dragon connection into the bay, if that's even possible. If you throw my dragon into the bay, I said flatly, I'll never forgive you. His head snapped up. I stepped toward him, closing the distance between us. I reached up and wrapped my fingers around his ruined tie. I bought that dragon because I needed something big enough to hold at night, I murmured, staring up at his beautiful, wrecked face. But lately, the stuffed version just isn't cutting it anymore. Damian's brain shorted out. I heard it happen. A complete blank, static of shock. Then, she wants me. She actually wants me? I'm gonna pass out. Don't pass out. Kiss her. Kiss her right now. Kiss her like your life depends on it. Damian, I whispered, rising onto my toes. You've been experiencing all of this through a proxy. Want to find out how it feels in person? His restraint snapped. His hands clamped onto my waist and he lifted me off the ground. My back hit the door and his mouth crashed down onto mine. The kiss was nothing like the careful, controlled man the world saw. He kissed like he was starving, desperate and deep and consuming. His hands roamed up my sides and into my hair. A low, rumbling groan vibrated in his chest and I felt it everywhere. She's kissing me, his mind chanted. She's kissing me. She's kissing me. I'm the luckiest man alive. Forget the dragon. I want her. Only her. Always her. He pulled back just enough to press his forehead against mine, both of us breathing hard. Mine, he rasped. Tell me you're mine, Aria. Tell me that Straddling woman is nothing to you. She's nothing, I panted. It's only you. He kissed me again, and this time it was slower, deeper, more deliberate, like he was memorizing every second. We didn't sleep much that night, and for the first time since the connection started, Pickles sat completely ignored on the floor. It turned out sharing sensory input with a stuffed dragon was fun, but having the actual 6'3" billionaire CEO tangled in my sheets was infinitely better. The next morning, Tessa walked into my apartment without knocking like she always did. She took one look at Damian Blackwood shirtless in my bed, dropped her iced latte on the rug, and backed out of the room in complete silence. Damian groaned and pulled the blanket over my bare shoulders. Tell her I'll pay for the rug, he muttered into my neck. And the latte. I laughed and smacked his chest. Get up, we have work! Walking into Blackwood Tech that morning with Damian's hand wrapped firmly around mine was an experience I'll never forget. Every head in the lobby turned. Whispers erupted like brush fire. Damian ignored all of it. His inner voice was a steady stream of possessiveness. That guy from engineering just looked at her. I'm cutting his budget. No, I'm not. Yes, I am. No, deep breaths. Be normal. She's holding my hand. She's holding my hand in public. Everyone knows she's mine now. This is the best day of my life. We made it to the executive floor when Victoria Sterling stepped out of the elevator. She was flanked by her father and a very uncomfortable-looking lawyer. Her eyes landed on our joined hands and her face went white with fury. Damian, she said, her voice shaking. We had an agreement. I told you there was no agreement, Victoria. Damian's voice was ice. I told your father last night. The merger is off, the marriage fantasy is off, everything is off. Victoria's father stepped forward, his face red. Blackwood, our families have been aligned for decades. You're throwing that away for what? Some junior employee you're sleeping with? Damian's hand tightened on mine. His inner voice was deathly calm. I'm going to destroy him. I'm going to buy his company and dismantle it piece by piece. I'm going to make sure no one ever speaks about her like that again. But before he could speak, Victoria lunged. Her hand shot out and grabbed the mini Pickles keychain dangling from my laptop bag. She yanked it so hard the clip snapped. She held the tiny dragon up like a trophy, her eyes wild. This is what you choose over me, a woman who accessorizes with children's toys? You're a joke, Aria. A cheap little joke. She threw the keychain onto the marble floor and lifted her heel to stomp on it. Damian moved. He was a blur. 1 second he was beside me. The next he was standing over Victoria, his hand wrapped around her wrist, stopping her heel mid-air. The temperature in the lobby dropped by about 20 degrees. "Pick it up," he said. His voice was quiet, too quiet. Victoria's face went pale. "Pick it up," he repeated. "And apologize to my girlfriend. And if you ever come near her again, if you ever speak to her again, if you ever even breathe in her direction, I will personally ensure that Sterling Industries becomes a case study in corporate annihilation. Do you understand me?" Victoria trembled. The absolute authority in his voice left no room for resistance. Slowly, humiliatingly, she bent down and picked up the tiny dragon keychain. She held it out to me, her hand shaking. "I'm sorry," she whispered. I took it from her and dusted it off. "Thank you, Victoria," I said sweetly. "Have a great day." She turned and fled. Her father followed, his face a mask of impotent rage. The lawyer scurried after them. The lobby was dead silent. Damian turned back to me, the murderous aura vanishing the instant his eyes met mine. He gently took the keychain from my hands and examined the broken clip. "I'll fix it," he said softly. He looked at me with those winter steel eyes, now warm as a summer sky. "Are you okay? Did she scare you?" "I'm fine," I said. "I'm more than fine." He smiled, a real, unguarded smile that transformed his entire face. And right there, in the middle of the Blackwood Tech lobby, in front of half the company, he leaned down and kissed me. "Good," he murmured against my lips. "Let's get to work." 6 months later, I moved out of my cramped apartment and into Damian's penthouse overlooking the Golden Gate Bridge. Tessa cried when I left, but she stopped crying when Damian gave her a fully funded scholarship for the MBA program she'd been dreaming about. Living with Damian Blackwood was a study in contrasts. To the outside world, he was the most feared CEO in Silicon Valley, a shark in a bespoke suit who never smiled in negotiations. To me, he was just a clingy disaster who couldn't fall asleep unless he was wrapped around me like a koala. I woke up one night around 2 a.m. with a heavy weight pinning me to the mattress. Damian was fast asleep, his face buried in my shoulder, his arms locked around my waist, and one of his long legs thrown entirely over my hips. I tried to shift, needing to reach my water glass.
He grunted and tightened his hold. "No," his sleepy inner voice mumbled. "Warm. Stay. Love you." I sighed, giving up on the water. I patted his head, running my fingers through his dark hair. Across the room, sitting proudly on an antique armchair, was Pickles, the giant green dragon. He had a permanent spot in our bedroom, a silent witness to our completely chaotic relationship. Occasionally, when Damian was being particularly stubborn during the day, I would walk over to the chair and give Pickles a hard pinch on the tail. The resulting yelp from across the apartment never failed to make me laugh. But at night, I didn't need the dragon anymore. I had the real thing. Damian shifted in his sleep, his lips brushing my collarbone. "Marry me," his inner voice murmured, still half asleep. "Don't say no. I've already designed the ring. It's in my sock drawer." I froze. Then I smiled so wide my cheeks hurt. I pressed a kiss to his forehead and closed my eyes. "Yes," I whispered into the dark. "Ask me when you're awake." His inner voice stirred again, already dreaming. "Best decision I ever made. Love my Aria. Love my dragon. Love everything." Outside, the fog rolled over the bay and the city glittered beneath us. And for the first time in years, I fell asleep without having to squeeze a stuffed animal. Because the man who held me was far warmer than any plush toy could ever be. And he was real. And he was mine.